The Xbox Bethesda showcase just wrapped up, and I have some thoughts. Let's talk about it. You know, in a lot of ways, I think this year's showcase was one of the ones that Xbox really needed to nail. I mean, every year there's always the one big showcase. That's important because it's setting the tone for the future of what's going on this console or for this company's titles. But this year in particular, especially with how the early years of this current generation of systems has been going, there's been that little bit of increased antsiness of, okay, cool, we've had the newest systems now for, we're hitting a year and a half right now. Can we get some more stuff coming out? What are some of the games we can expect? What's some things we can get excited for? Where's my stuff at? And there's a lot of really good reasons why these kind of delays and problems have been happening, but at the end of the day, people still want to have those kind of hype moments and get games to be excited about. And I think overall, they mostly accomplished that. If I had to give this show a review score, I wouldn't give it a perfect 10 out of 10 or even 9 out of 10. But at the same time, I don't think it's anything as low as a 5 or a 6. It feels like a solid 8, maybe 7.5, partially because, something that I think is generally kind of a good move is that they showed a very large variety of games, especially in the middle of the presentation. But that also sometimes drives down the hype factor a little bit because some people are looking for the, what's the next big thing? Where's the next big thing? And they really loaded that mostly at the start and the end, which were some really solid announcements. Redfall was the big opening game, which I have to admit is not one of the titles that I've been personally the most excited for, just because I generally am really into single-player focused stuff, and co-op is kind of that line of, okay, I might really enjoy this, I might have a lot of fun, or maybe I'll just get bored of it really quickly. And the gameplay that we saw at least looks really nice. And then following that up, not necessarily in this order, but with news of a lot of Riot games coming to Xbox, showing Microsoft Flight Simulator stuff, including the ability to use Halo ships, Plague Tale Requiem, which is not a first-party title, but is one that I am personally really excited for, and I think was one of the strongest kind of lesser-known games that were shown during the conference, and having it early on was great. And I think one of the biggest surprises for me is that Silksong, of all things, made an appearance. I mean, I just did a video talking about how maybe it could show up if Nintendo did a Direct during this June, and instead, here it is at Xbox. We didn't get a release date still, but we did get more gameplay, which honestly, at this point, I'll just accept having more signs of life. I would love to get more info for the actual release whenever that is ready. I'm just happy to see more of it make an appearance somewhere. And then in the middle of the show, things start to go a little more all over the place. Again, I think part of the benefit of that move is that there is a variety. There's stuff for everyone. There's stuff that I got excited for that I'm sure a lot of people did not care about, and vice versa. For me, at least, some of the things that stood out: Forza Horizon 5 DLC. I'm not super huge into racing games in general, but I do like the ones that are more arcadey. And while Horizon 5 has that feeling a little bit at the start, the kind of stuff that's being added with Hot Wheels tracks ups that feeling a lot more. We also got the announcement of a new Obsidian RPG with Pentiment, which is the most Josh Sawyer thing I have ever seen before. I did not need to actually see any official update to know that he was the director of that game. I was personally really hoping that maybe they would have some Avowed news this year. As soon as they said the showcase was focused on stuff coming out within the next year, which is something we're going to talk about a little later, I kind of had the feeling that that wasn't going to happen then, but I just really wanted some extra little taste, because as far as, exclusive stuff that Xbox has announced in the past that I want more information on, that's really the one I think I'm actually personally the most excited for, because I love the Pillars games. I enjoy first person, fantasy RPGs, Elder Scrolls, all that good stuff. So, I'm fine without it for now, but just that was the one thing I was hoping for. There were also a couple other ones in the middle that looked interesting that I'm not like full-blown hyped for just yet. I want to see some more info on, but I am definitely curious about. Stuff like Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn, The Last Case of Benedict Fox, As Dusk Falls, all stuff that I think has some promise and are things that I'm definitely going to check out, and because they're all coming to Game Pass, I'm just going to end up trying them at least some way there, but definitely things that just grabbed my eye a little bit. And then as the show started coming to a close, they started trying to ramp up the energy a little bit more. I think the big starting point of this was having a Diablo 4 reveal, where they showed off the now final confirmed class for the launch of the game, Necromancer, as well as showing some more gameplay, which looks pretty good. We also got the announcement of a new game coming from the same lead guy behind Limbo and Inside, called Cocoon, which looks really interesting. I think that was one of the kind of brand new out of nowhere ones that, for me at least, caught my eye. Wo Long, which is a Team Ninja game that basically looks like it's going to be another Nioh style title, but instead of being Japan, this one takes place in China during the time of the Three Kingdoms. One announcement that was getting rumored a lot, and I did not expect to see at the Xbox show, is we did get the reveal of Persona 3 Portable, Persona 4 Golden, and Persona 5 Royal, all coming to Xbox as well as PC, although Golden is already on there. The only one of these that actually has a confirmed release date right now is Royal, but I am so happy just to see that all these games are coming to more systems, giving more people ways to play them. I've actually been saying for a while how much I would love Persona 3 to get like a definitive remaster version that collapsed the FES and portable stuff together, which isn't what's happening. They're just porting portable specifically, which is still arguably the best version of the game anyway, so I'm just happy that game's becoming available to more people in some form. Then they had Kojima make an appearance talking about a game that he's going to be working on with Xbox Game Studios that, to be fair, was kind of a vague thing. This is one of those moments where this is a cool concept. I mean, I enjoy stuff that Kojima makes. I am excited to see what a brand new game could end up looking like. There has been some previous kind of recent leaks and rumors that might be pointing towards it being some kind of horror game, or that's another title that he's working on. The point is they announced a partnership and could potentially be really cool, but there's not a whole lot of info outside of the fact that it's happening. And then the big final closer, Starfield, and like actually showing gameplay of Starfield, because this is a title that we've known about for a long time now. There's been some dev diaries and kind of some light talk of, what actually is going to happen in the game, but we've never actually seen gameplay until today. And me, personally, I'm excited. Though I will say that, the little social media that I've paid attention to right after the show ended, I have seen some mixed feelings about the game. I've seen a lot of positivity, but I've seen some apprehension as well. And I do kind of get it. I think the engine that Bethesda uses is just starting to show its age a lot more, to where there's a certain stiffness in the game that I think betrays a little bit the feeling of it being, this brand new big experience. But at the same time, some of the other concepts that were being shown in the trailer are really, really cool. It looks a lot like it's drawing a lot of influence from some of the changes and things that Fallout 4 did, where there's a heavier emphasis on crafting, on being able to build settlements. In this case, also being able to build your ship. I gotta say, I never really cared for the settlement building in Fallout 4, so I don't really care about it that hard in this, and I kind of hope it's something that you can mostly ignore and not lose out on any other content of as a result. But the ship building, that has my attention. That is a super cool concept. It's honestly something that I was really hoping we would see in this game, and I didn't think it was going to actually happen. So that was freaking awesome. Really the only thing about it that I think gave me a little pause is that they do this kind of closing speech by mentioning the fact that you are going to have 1,000 worlds to explore. I don't know, one of the things I really enjoyed about older Bethesda games is how handcrafted a lot of the worlds felt. There's a certain liveliness to the world of Morrowind that I think is lacking in some of the later games. And there's still love and care and there's still cool stuff that exists in those titles, but the larger things are and the more places there are to go, that spreads those resources out a little more. And so that, for me personally, I'm not so sure about. It's not like an immediate red flag to me, but it's just the one kind of line where I'm like, okay, let's see how this plays out. When you take a step back and just look at the full list of all the announcements that happened at this show, I think there's one major negative thing to talk about, but then a number of different positives that I think really add up to some good stuff. When it comes to the big negative thing, there's no other way to say this. As far as big first-party stuff goes, really nothing else is happening this year. Forza Motorsport, Starfield, Redfall, all that stuff is coming out in early 2023. While the rest of 2022 is going to have, some really interesting third-party and indie game support, but if what you care about is, the big AAA stuff, yeah, you're relying on third party this year. Then again, the positives though. While there is not as much stuff coming out this year, one of the things they did say during the conferences is that everything they showed is planned to release within the next year. So while it isn't coming out in 2022, that means that a lot of that big stuff is coming out in the first half of 2023. And I think that's a really smart move because with how much stuff that's already kind of delayed and things that we're just waiting on for more information of, that were just, CGI trailers that dropped 2 or 3 years ago, I think if they had kept doing that this year when we're already still waiting for so many other things, that would have just left a really bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. And instead they chose to go with, okay, you know what? We're not going to promise any other far out stuff in the future. Here's all the stuff within the next year you can look forward to. And did that potentially lose out 1 or 2, bigger hype reveals that could have happened? Sure. But again, I think they're playing catch up right now on really seeing a lot of these releases finally drop. And so instead, focus on what's really coming and get people excited for those titles. And then the other thing is what Xbox's, actual lead thing they're leaning into these days, Game Pass. I mean, basically every single thing that was talked about at the show ended with a play it on day one with Game Pass. They just kept throwing that at you left and right. And as slightly annoying as that can sometimes be, that really does highlight how much potential value Game Pass has. I mean, I'm the kind of person where I do like to play a really large variety of stuff. There's a lot of things I just want to give a try, jump into for a little bit. And so, a lot of these announcements we saw today was stuff where, look, I may not have gone out and bought otherwise, but because Game Pass, I'm absolutely going to give it a shot. And I think that's one of the things they really wanted to illustrate by having a large variety of things. Again, overall, I think it was a really solid, good presentation. Not necessarily the best they've ever done, but a really solid, good one. And I think more importantly, it was a good one that also kind of had more measured expectations, because it's not promising wild things happening however many years from now. It's all stuff we're going to be able to play within the next year. And I'm very curious to see how that all pays off. So those are my thoughts about the Xbox Showcase. As always, if you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up button to let me know. Thumbs down if you didn't. It's always good info for me to have. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you guys later.